The first time I saw a human, it was behind glass. To be fair, everything on the EndKEY pleasure station was behind glass. The fish from Delta 9, the singing moss from Umble Prime, the six-legged cats from Riva, all neatly displayed, labeled, and priced. But the humans had a sign above their enclosure that read in bold galactic standard: Terran specimens. Fragile. Do not tap the glass. Someone had taped a second note beneath it, written in ink made from crushed berries. We can read that. The station commander, a bloated, four-armed EndKEY named Gruzz, assured us this was normal behavior. They mimic intelligence, he said, waving two of his arms dismissively. Very convincing. That is why they make such popular pets. They repeat things. They imitate language. Truly a wonder of nature. My name is Thovak. I'm a trade inspector from the EndKEY Collective, and I want to be completely honest with you. I believed him. I believed every single word. I had read the catalog. Terran specimens, class 4 biological entity, cognitive capacity, imitative. I had seen the price list. I had seen the reviews. Gruzz had a 4.7 rating. I walked past the enclosure with my datapad, ready to log the visit and move on with my life. Then one of the humans spoke to me directly. Hey, it said. I kept walking. Hey, you with the orange skin and 3 eyes. Yes, you. The one pretending you didn't hear me. I stopped. I turned around slowly. The way you turn around when you know something is about to become your problem, but are still hoping desperately that it will not. There were 7 of them inside the enclosure. The one speaking was standing at the glass with arms crossed, wearing the expression of someone who had waited a very long time for someone to appear and ruin their day. Her name, I would later learn, was Mara Olsen. She was from a place called Sweden, a place on Earth that apparently means the land of people who are polite until they are not. You are an inspector, yes? She said. I looked at my badge. Yes. Good. She reached into the pocket of her worn clothing and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Then you'll want to read this. I looked at the paper. Then I looked at Gruzz, who suddenly became very interested in a display on the other side of the room. Then I looked back at the paper. How did you? I started. Write it, she finished. We are sapient beings. Writing is what we do. Mathematics too. And interstellar navigation, by the way. But let us start with writing. The paper was a formal legal complaint. It cited, in precise and annotated detail, 17 violations of the EndKEY Collective Trade Ethics Code, 4 violations of the Galactic Common Sentience Protection Act, 2 violations of the Interspecies Dignity Accord, not formally enforced since the Mervik uprisings, 1 violation of a very obscure environmental charter even I had never heard of. At the bottom, it was signed by all 7 of them in 3 different languages. I read the entire document, standing there with my mouth open. Gruzz was still pretending to examine the fish display. He was not looking at the fish. He was sweating. Where, I said carefully, did you gain access to galactic legal archives? Mara pointed to a small human sitting in the back corner, surrounded by hundreds of handwritten notes. That is Finn. He memorized the catalog system after Gruzz left the terminal unlocked for 40 seconds in year 1. We have been building this case for 2 years. 2 years. They had been here for 2 years. Gruzz's 4.7 rating suddenly felt very different. I folded the paper and placed it inside my coat. I looked at Mara. I looked at the sign above the enclosure. Fragile. Do not tap the glass. We are not fragile, Mara said politely. No, I agreed. You are not. Behind me, I heard Gruzz speak. Inspector Thovak, I can explain. His voice had become very small for a being with 4 arms. The mimicry is extremely advanced. You must understand, very advanced. But I was already calling the collective's legal office, and the humans were already smiling. The legal office of the EndKEY Collective had hold music, a soft, melodic tune composed by the great EndKEY musician Sorvin, meant to evoke peace, patience, and institutional calm. Gruzz listened to it for 47 minutes. I know because I timed it. I stood at the glass with my datapad running and watched him sweat through all 4 armpits while Mara Olsen sat on the other side with a cup of something warm, wearing the absolute unshakable composure of someone who had been planning this exact moment for 2 years. You seem comfortable. I told her through the intercom I had finally learned how to activate. I have been waiting 26 months, she said. I can wait another 47 minutes. The small human in the corner, Finn, did not look up from his notes. His handwriting was very neat, almost disturbingly neat, the kind of neat that only happens when someone has nothing else to do except write and channel enormous quiet fury into staying calm. When the legal office finally answered, I read them the first 3 violations from the complaint. There was silence on the other end, long enough that I began to worry about the connection. Then the senior legal officer, Counselor Thovak, spoke in a very measured tone. Inspector Thovak, are you telling me that someone submitted a handwritten, multi-jurisdictional legal filing from inside a registered pet enclosure? Yes, I said. Another silence. Using galactic standard citation format. Yes. And the Interspecies Dignity Accord, Clause 14, Subsection 9, which has not been invoked since. Since the Mervik uprisings, yes, Counselor. They cited it correctly. The silence this time was so long that Gruzz had begun slowly backing toward the emergency exit before Thovak spoke again. Tell the station manager, she said with the kind of controlled calmness that is far more terrifying than shouting, that he is not to move a single living being off that station until our team arrives. She paused. And tell the Terrans, she added, that the collective apologizes for the wait. I turned toward the enclosure. She says the collective apologizes for the wait. Mara looked at the others. Deo, a tall human in the back, laughed, loud and sudden. Pryda covered her mouth. Finn finally put down his pen. He looked up at the ceiling of the enclosure, took a long breath, and nodded once. The way people nod when something, after a very long time, has finally gone the way it was supposed to. The collective's team arrived in 9 hours. Gruzz was detained in 8. He spent the 9th hour sitting in the corner of his own office, which I found deeply satisfying, though I remain a professional and did not say so aloud. The formal hearings lasted 11 days. I attended all of them, partly because it was my duty and partly because what happened inside that hearing room was, without exaggeration, the most extraordinary thing I have witnessed in 31 years of trade inspection. Finn presented the case. He had no formal legal training as defined by any collective institution. What he had was 2 years of notes, a memory that could store entire legal databases after a single 40-second glance, and the kind of focused, unhurried precision that made the collective's lawyers shift uncomfortably in their seats. He cited violations they had overlooked. He cross-referenced accords most officials had forgotten existed. At one point, he presented a secondary complaint addressing not only Gruzz Station, but the broader classification system that had allowed humans to be labeled as Class 4 entities in the first place. The classification, he argued, had never been based on actual assessment. It had been based on assumption. Someone, somewhere, had decided that because humans came from a world without faster-than-light travel, they were not worth the time required to ask a question. You did not assess us, he said to the panel. You priced us. Silence filled the hearing room, the kind of silence that feels like an entire station holding its breath. Counselor Thovak examined the classification record. Then she looked at Finn, then at the 7 humans seated behind him. Now, cleaned up, properly dressed, seated in proper chairs, drinking proper tea that Pryda had apparently negotiated from the catering staff within 2 hours of leaving the enclosure. The Class 4 designation, Thovak said slowly, is hereby suspended pending full reclassification review. Mara exhaled. Deo laughed again, quieter this time. Not really a laugh. The kind that escapes when something has been held inside for too long. Outside the hearing room, I found Mara standing by a wide observation window, looking at the stars. Her arms were crossed. For the first time since I met her, she looked like someone who was no longer actively fighting something. What happens now? I asked. She thought for a moment. Now we go home, she said, and then we make sure this never happens to anyone else. I looked at her. You know, there'll be a very long fight. She turned toward me with the expression of someone who had spent 2 years writing legal briefs on stolen paper inside a glass box. Inspector, she said, we are humans. She smiled. Long fights are what we do. Never underestimate humanity, Because long wars are what we survive, and quiet wars are what we win.